Commander Deho stood on the observation deck of the Silent Watch station, his eyes fixed on the display screens before him. 73 times. That was how many times the alien ships had come to Earth's doorstep. 73 times humanity had watched them arrive, scan their defenses, send their messages, and leave frustrated. The screens showed 5 large vessels hanging in space just beyond Mars. They were elegant in their own way, covered in strange symbols that glowed with soft blue light. These were council ships, representing a group of 47 alien species that ruled most of the known galaxy. They wanted Earth to join them. They wanted humans to become part of their great civilization. Earth had other ideas. "Commander, they're broadcasting again," said Lieutenant Hana from her station. She was younger than Deho, brilliant with languages and one of the few people who could understand the alien transmissions without needing a computer to translate. Deho nodded. "Let me hear it." The voice that filled the room was translated by their systems into perfect Korean. It sounded annoyed, almost angry. "People of Earth, this is Ambassador Vreth of the Galactic Council. For 200 years you have ignored our attempts at peaceful contact. We offer you knowledge, protection, and a place among the advanced civilizations of the galaxy. Your silence is both puzzling and concerning. We will return in 30 days. We hope you will finally see reason." The transmission ended. Deho allowed himself a small smile. Vreth sounded more frustrated than usual. "Good. They don't understand," Hana said quietly. "They think we're afraid or too primitive to respond." "Let them think that," Deho replied. He turned to look at her. "What did Ambassador Jiwan report from the Council homeworlds?" Hana pulled up a file on her screen. "The Council met last week. They discussed the Earth situation for 6 hours. Most of them believe we're a dying civilization, too stubborn to accept help. The Velcros think we might have valuable resources they can trade for. The Thrain believe we need their philosophical guidance. And the Morthek..." She paused. "The Morthek want to conquer us," Deho finished for her. The Morthek were warriors, reptilian creatures who believed strength was the only thing that mattered. They had argued for forcing Earth into the Council many times before. Jiwan says the vote was close. They decided to give us one more chance. If we don't respond this time, they'll take action. They call it civilizing intervention. Deho walked to the window. Earth hung below them, blue and green and beautiful. His home, every human's home. For 2 centuries they had chosen silence. Not because they were afraid. Not because they didn't understand what the Council offered. They stayed silent because they had learned what the Council really was. Far across the galaxy, on a secret listening post, Ambassador Jiwan reviewed the latest intelligence reports. She was 52 years old and had spent the last 15 years living in the shadows of Council space. No one knew she was human. She looked like one of the Thrain, thanks to advanced holographic technology that Earth had developed decades ago. The reports made her angry, but she kept her face calm. That was her job. Watch, listen, learn, and never reveal the truth. The Council called itself peaceful. They claimed they helped primitive species advance. They said they brought order to the chaos of the galaxy. But Jiwan had seen what really happened. When a new species joined the Council, they lost their independence. The Council decided what technology they could have. The Council decided what they could study. The Council took their resources in exchange for protection and guidance. Within a few generations, those species forgot their own cultures. They became copies of their Council masters, thinking the same thoughts, following the same rules, and if a species refused to join, the Council had ways of dealing with that too. Economic blockades, isolation. Sometimes accidents happened. Ships disappeared. Colonies went silent. The Council always had an explanation, always reasonable, always justified. Earth had watched all of this, and Earth had decided that silence was better than slavery. Captain Minho ran his hand along the side of his fighter craft. The ship hummed under his touch, alive with power. It was beautiful, sleek and black, designed to move through space in ways that would seem impossible to Council engineers. He was 31 years old and had trained his entire adult life for a war that might never come. His squadron, the Ghost Wolves, consisted of 47 pilots, all of them ready to fly at a moment's notice. But the notice never came. Every time Council ships appeared, Earth stayed dark and quiet. It frustrated him sometimes. Minho knew what their ships could do. He had run the simulations thousands of times. The Ghost Wolves could disable the entire Council fleet in hours, maybe minutes. But the orders never changed. Observe, monitor, do not engage. Do you think they'll finally give the order? Asked his wingmate, Lieutenant Bora. She was checking her own fighter, making sure every system was perfect. I don't know, Minho admitted. President Suna is patient. General Taewon is patient. They all are. Sometimes I wonder if they'll ever let us fly. They will, Bora said with confidence. When the time is right. When we have no other choice. That's what my father always said. Her father had helped design the quantum engines that powered their ships. He understood the strategy better than most. Minho nodded. He trusted the leadership. He just hoped they were right. In the capital city of Seoul, President Suna sat in her office reading reports from across the solar system. She was 60 years old, and she had been president for 12 years. Every day she made the same choice her predecessors had made. Stay silent. Stay hidden. Wait, the pressure was enormous. Many people on Earth wanted to make contact with the Council. They saw the advanced technology, the promises of peace and prosperity, and they wondered why their leaders refused. There were protests sometimes, demands for transparency, accusations of cowardice. But Suna knew things most people didn't. She had access to all of G1's intelligence. She knew about the 23 species that had joined the Council and lost everything that made them unique. She knew about the 8 species that had refused and been destroyed through Council manipulation. She knew that the galaxy was not the paradise the Council pretended it was. Earth had spent 200 years preparing, building ships in secret, developing technology the Council couldn't imagine, training soldiers and pilots and engineers, creating a defense network that could protect every human in the solar system, and most importantly, protecting other species. There were 30 civilizations across the galaxy that the Council didn't know about. Young species, primitive by Council standards, who would be perfect targets for uplift and eventual absorption. Earth had hidden them, shielded them with advanced technology, given them time to grow on their own terms. All of this had been done in absolute silence. Suna's communication device beeped. It was General Taewon. Madam President, the Council fleet is leaving. They're heading back to their territory. Good, Suna replied. And their message? They gave us 30 days. After that, they say they'll take action. Suna closed her eyes. 200 years of patience. It might finally be coming to an end. Prepare protocol silence break, she said quietly. Alert all commanders. If they cross the line, we respond. Understood, Madam President. Suna ended the call and walked to her window. Outside, people went about their lives, unaware of how close they might be to everything changing. She hoped the Council would be wise. She hoped they would give up and leave Earth alone. But she had lived long enough to know that arrogance usually won over wisdom. The Council had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They couldn't imagine that a single silent world might be their match. They were about to learn otherwise. High above Earth, on the Silent Watch station, Commander Daiho watched the Council ships begin their journey home. He felt no relief. Something was different this time. He could sense it. Hana, he said. Monitor all Council communications. I want to know everything they're saying about us. Yes, Commander. Daiho stared at the retreating ships. For 200 years, Earth had maintained perfect silence. That silence had protected them, given them time to grow strong, kept them free. But silence could only last so long. Eventually, every hidden thing must be revealed. Eventually, every secret finds the light. He just hoped Earth was ready for what came next. The Council's message arrived exactly 30 days later. Commander Daiho read it 3 times, his jaw tightening with each word. This was different from all the previous messages. This one wasn't a request or an invitation. It was an ultimatum. They're demanding a response within 48 hours, Hana said from her station. Her voice was steady, but Daiho could hear the tension underneath. If we don't reply, they say they'll begin protective measures for our own benefit. Daiho set down the report. What kind of protective measures? Hana pulled up the translated document. They claim Earth is at risk of ecological collapse, social breakdown, and technological stagnation. They say they have a moral duty to intervene before we destroy ourselves. They're calling it the Preservation Protocol. That's a lie, said Lieutenant Bora from across the room. She had been analyzing Council fleet movements. Look at this. 3 battle groups are moving toward our solar system. These aren't science vessels or diplomatic ships. These are military formations. Daiho studied the tactical display. She was right. The council was preparing for something much more aggressive than a peaceful intervention. "Contact General Taewon," Daeho ordered. "He needs to see this immediately." Within hours, alarms were sounding across Earth's hidden military network. President Suna called an emergency meeting of the Shadow Parliament, a secret governing body that only a few thousand people knew existed. In a bunker deep beneath Seoul, 50 representatives gathered to discuss Earth's response. General Taewon stood before them, displaying the intelligence they had gathered. "The Council is moving 400 ships into our region of space. They're establishing a perimeter around our solar system. They say it's to help us, but we know better. They're preparing for an invasion," said Admiral Kyung, commander of Earth's Ghost Fleet. She was 55 years old and had spent her entire career preparing for this exact moment. "They'll surround us, cut off any escape routes, and then move in to take control." President Suna looked around the room. "Options? We reveal ourselves," Taewon said immediately. "We show them our true capabilities and force them to reconsider." "That risks war," argued one of the representatives. "If we show our strength, the Council might attack with everything they have." "They're going to attack anyway," Kyung countered. "At least if we reveal our defenses now, we do it on our terms, not theirs." Suna was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked at Dr. Hana, who had been brought to the meeting to provide her analysis of Council psychology. "What do you think they'll do if we continue to stay silent?" Hana didn't hesitate. "They'll interpret it as weakness. They'll land on our moon, our space stations, maybe even Earth itself. They'll claim these territories are unclaimed because we never officially responded to their messages. By their laws, silence equals abandonment of claim." "That's insane," someone said. "That's how the Council works," Hana replied. "I've studied their legal system for 15 years. They've used this same logic to take over 17 other worlds. They call it the absence doctrine. If you don't claim your territory according to their rules, it's fair game." The room erupted in angry voices. Suna raised her hand for silence. "Then we have no choice. We either respond or we lose everything without a fight." She turned to Taewon. "Begin protocol silence break. But we do this carefully. We show strength, not aggression. We make them understand that Earth is not a target. But we don't give them an excuse to attack, yes." "Madam President," Taewon said. But they were already too late. The next morning, alarms screamed across the human colony on Ganymede, one of Jupiter's moons. Captain Minho was in the training center when the alert came through. He sprinted to the command room where Lieutenant Soyeon was already pulling up sensor data. "What's happening?" Minho demanded. "Council ships," Soyeon said, her face pale. 12 of them just appeared in orbit around Ganymede. "They're not asking permission. They're just landing." Minho felt ice in his stomach. "Where?" "Sector 7. The mining complex." The mining complex housed 3,000 civilians. Miners, engineers, families. They were completely undefended because Earth's military presence on Ganymede was hidden in underground facilities. "Get me General Taewon. Now." While Minho waited for the connection, he watched the screens in horror. Council landing craft were descending on the colony. He could see people running, trying to get to safety. The Council soldiers were emerging from their ships, setting up equipment, establishing a perimeter. They were taking over. Taewon's face appeared on the screen. "Captain Minho, I see it. Do not engage. I repeat, do not engage. Sir, they're invading our colony." "I know. We're handling it through diplomatic channels." "Stand down." The connection ended. Minho slammed his fist on the console. "Diplomatic channels? They're on our territory with armed soldiers, but orders were orders." He could only watch as the Council established their base on Ganymede, claiming it as disputed territory in need of stabilization. On Earth, President Suna was in emergency talks with her advisors when the second incident occurred. This time it was Mars. Council mining vessels had begun extracting resources from the Martian surface without permission. When Earth's automated defense satellites moved to intercept, the Council ships simply destroyed them. "They're testing us," Admiral Kyung said. "They want to see if we'll fight back. Then we need to respond," Taewon insisted. "Every moment we wait, they claim more territory." Suna made her decision. "Send a message to the Council. Direct, clear, impossible to misunderstand. Tell them they have 12 hours to withdraw from all human territories. If they don't, we will remove them ourselves." "Should we show them our fleet?" Kyung asked. "Not yet. Let them think we're desperate. Let them think we're weak. When we strike, I want them completely surprised." The message was sent. The Council's response came back within an hour. Ambassador Vreth himself delivered it, and his tone was condescending, almost amused. People of Earth, we appreciate your belated communication. However, the territories you claim have been undefended and unused. Under Council law, we are within our rights to develop these resources. We invite you to send representatives to discuss integration into the Galactic Council. This would resolve all territorial disputes peacefully. In other words, surrender or lose everything. That night, something happened that pushed Earth past the point of no return. A Council mining vessel, breaking apart an asteroid near Earth's orbit, accidentally destroyed a small space station. It was old, barely functional, serving mainly as a memorial. 150 years ago, it had been the first permanent human structure built beyond Earth's moon. Generations of astronauts had trained there. It was a symbol of humanity's first steps into space. The Council commander apologized for the unfortunate accident and offered compensation. The message was polite, professional, and utterly dismissive. To them, it was just an old piece of junk in the way of their operations. To humanity, it was sacred ground. Commander Daiho watched the debris float through space, pieces of humanity's history scattered among the stars. He thought about his grandfather who had served on that station 60 years ago. He thought about all the dreams humans had dreamed in that place, all the hopes they had carried into the darkness. The Council had destroyed it without even noticing. His communication device buzzed. It was President Suna, her face appearing on the screen. She looked different now. The patience was gone from her eyes. In its place was something cold and hard. Commander Daiho, activate all defense protocols. Recall every ship. Wake the Ghost Fleet. She paused. 200 years ago, we chose silence because we saw what the Council did to others. We stayed quiet so they would underestimate us. We hid our strength so we could grow without interference. Yes, Madam President. They've taken our silence as weakness. They've invaded our territory. They've destroyed our history. Her voice dropped lower. Silence is no longer wisdom. It's time they learned why we stayed quiet. Across Earth, across every hidden base and secret facility, commanders received the same message. Protocol silence break was fully activated. Soldiers moved to their stations. Pilots climbed into their fighters. Engineers powered up weapons that had never been fired in combat. Captain Minho stood in the hangar bay looking at his fighter. Around him, the 47 pilots of the Ghost Wolves were preparing for launch. After years of training, years of waiting, they were finally going to fly. Remember, he told his squadron over the communication channel, we don't start the fight, but we're going to finish it. High above Earth, invisible to every Council sensor, the Ghost Fleet began to move. 200 ships built in secret over 2 centuries, equipped with technology the Council couldn't detect or understand. They had been sleeping, waiting, hiding in the darkness between stars. Now they were waking up. Ambassador G1, still hidden on a Council world, watched the military preparations accelerate. She knew what was coming. She sent one final message to Earth, knowing it might be her last communication before her cover was blown. They think you're primitive. They think you're weak. They have no idea what's about to hit them. Make it count. Make them remember. In the Council command ship near Mars, Ambassador Vreth was celebrating. Earth had finally responded, and though they had demanded withdrawal, their message had been desperate and weak. He had won. The Council fleet near Mars never saw it coming. At exactly 400 hours Earth time, every Council ship within the solar system experienced the same phenomenon. Their engines shut down. Their weapons went offline. Their life support systems flickered but stayed active. Their communication systems worked, but nothing else did. 400 warships, dozens of mining vessels, and 3 command carriers simply stopped functioning. On the bridge of his command ship, Ambassador Vreth stared at his console in confusion. What's happening? Engineering report. I don't know, sir, came the frantic reply. Everything just stopped. It's like someone flipped a switch. We're running diagnostics, but we can't find any cause. Is it a system failure? No, sir. The systems are fine. They're just not responding to our commands. Vreth felt the first flutter of concern. Check all ships. Is this fleet-wide? The response came back within minutes. Every single Council vessel in Earth's solar system was dead in space. Functional but completely powerless. Then the darkness began to tear apart. Commander Daiho stood on the bridge of the EDF Silence, flagship of Earth's Ghost Fleet. Around him, his crew worked with practiced efficiency. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. "All ships are in position," reported the tactical officer. "Quantum stealth fields are disengaging on your command." "Do it," Deho ordered. One by one, 200 human warships materialized out of nothing. They had been there all along, hiding in the spaces between dimensions, invisible to every sensor the Council possessed. Now they revealed themselves, surrounding the paralyzed Council fleet in perfect formation. The Council sensors went crazy. Alarms screamed on every ship. Warnings flooded their systems. Unknown vessels. Hundreds of them. Advanced technology. Origin unknown. But every Council officer knew exactly where they came from. Earth. Silent. Primitive. Ignored Earth. Captain Minho felt his heart race as his fighter squadron launched from the EDF Persistence, Admiral Kyung's personal warship. The Ghost Wolves streamed into space, 47 black fighters moving like shadows. They flew in formation around the Council ships, close enough that the enemy could see them clearly on their screens. "Ghost Leader to all units," Minho transmitted. "Remember the objective. We escort them out. No weapons unless fired upon. Show them what we can do, but don't start a war." His squadron acknowledged. They began their demonstration, flying patterns that should have been impossible. They phased in and out of normal space, appearing on one side of a Council ship and instantly materializing on the other. They moved at speeds that made Council pilots dizzy just watching. They danced through space like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. On the EDF silence, Daiho opened a communication channel to every Council ship in the solar system. His message was simple and direct. "This is Commander Daiho of the Earth Defense Force. You have invaded our territory. You have destroyed our property. You have ignored our sovereignty. You have 4 hours to leave this solar system. Any ship remaining after that time will be escorted out by force. We will not harm you, but you will leave. This is not a negotiation." The message repeated in every language the Council used. Daiho made sure it was impossible to misunderstand. On his command ship, Vreth finally found his voice. "This is impossible. Our intelligence said Earth had no military capability, no advanced technology. How did they hide all of this?" His tactical officer shook his head in disbelief. "Sir, I'm analyzing their ships. The technology is decades beyond anything the Council has. Maybe centuries. These vessels are using quantum displacement drives, dimensional stealth fields, and weapon systems we can't even identify. Get me high command now." But when Vreth tried to contact the Council homeworlds, he discovered another problem. All long-range communication was being blocked. Every message was intercepted. Earth had complete control over what information left the solar system. They were isolated, powerless and surrounded. 3,000 light-years away, Ambassador Jiwan activated the final phase of her mission. For 15 years, she had been planting seeds throughout Council space. Agents, informants, allies, people who were tired of Council control, who had seen the darker side of their civilized society. Now she activated them all. Within hours, information began flooding across the Council networks. Evidence of crimes the government had hidden for centuries. Proof of species that had been forcibly integrated, their cultures erased. Records of worlds that had been secretly destroyed when they refused to join. Financial corruption, slavery disguised as voluntary work programs, weapons testing on primitive species. Every dirty secret the Council had buried, Jiwan brought into the light. The response was immediate and chaotic. Dozens of Council member species began demanding answers. Protests erupted on 6 homeworlds. 3 species threatened to leave the Council entirely. The government that had seemed so unified and strong began cracking under the weight of its own lies. And through it all, Jiwan sent one message to every Council member. "Earth has been watching you for 200 years. Earth knows everything, and Earth protects those you would destroy." On Earth, President Suna addressed her people for the first time about the crisis. Billions of humans watched as their leader explained what was happening. "For 2 centuries, we have maintained silence, not because we were weak, but because we were wise. We watched the Galactic Council. We studied them. We learned what they really are. They call themselves peacekeepers, but they are conquerors. They offer help, but they steal independence. They promise advancement, but they deliver slavery." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We stayed silent so we could grow strong in secret. We developed technology they cannot match. We built defenses they cannot break. We protected other species they wanted to exploit. And now, because they mistook our silence for weakness, we must show them the truth. The broadcast showed images of the Ghost Fleet, of the Council ships powerless in space, of humanity's true strength. We do not seek war. We do not desire conquest. But we will not be victims. We will not surrender our freedom. And we will not abandon those weaker than us to Council oppression. Earth stands and Earth will not bow. The speech went viral across human civilization and beyond. G1 made sure it reached every corner of Council space, translated into every language. The galaxy was watching now. Back in the solar system, the 4-hour deadline approached. Most Council ships had begun slowly drifting toward the edge of the system, pushed by gentle tractor beams from human vessels. They had no power to resist, so they simply went where Earth directed them. But 12 Council ships refused to move. They were Morthek warships, the most powerful vessels in the Council fleet. Their commander, a warrior named Kresh, had managed to restore partial power to his weapons. He wasn't leaving without a fight. Admiral Kyung received the report on the bridge of the EDF Persistence. She had expected this. The Morthek were proud, aggressive, and stupid. They would rather die than appear weak. Captain Minho, she transmitted, your squadron is cleared to disable the Morthek ships. Non-lethal force only. Show them what our fighters can do. Minho felt a surge of excitement, finally. Ghost Wolves, you heard the Admiral. Target engines and weapons. Phase 3 combat protocol. Let's go. The Ghost Wolves attacked like nothing the Morthek had ever encountered. Minho's fighter phased into normal space directly behind the lead Morthek warship, fired a quantum pulse that shorted out their engine controls, and phased out before they could even target him. His squadron followed suit, appearing and disappearing, striking from impossible angles, moving through space in ways that defied physics as the Morthek understood it. Within 7 minutes, all 12 Morthek ships were disabled. Not destroyed, not damaged, just completely unable to fight. Their weapons were offline, their shields were down, and their engines were dead. Kresh, watching his proud warships rendered helpless by tiny human fighters, finally understood. Earth hadn't been hiding because they were weak. They had been hiding because they were terrifyingly strong. We surrender, he transmitted. We will leave. Smart choice, Minho replied. His squadron formed up around the Morthek vessels and began towing them toward the system's edge. As the last Council ship crossed the boundary of the solar system, Deho sent one final message. Tell your leaders what you saw here. Tell them Earth is not a target. Tell them we want peace, but we are prepared for war. And tell them that if they ever invade our territory again, we will not be so gentle. The Council fleet limped home, humiliated and confused. In 200 years of expansion, they had never encountered a civilization more advanced than themselves. The entire foundation of their worldview had been shattered in a single day on Earth. Celebrations erupted across every city. Humanity had revealed itself and emerged victorious without firing a single lethal shot. They had proven their strength without becoming monsters. They had defended their home without starting a war, but in her office, President Suna knew this was just the beginning. The Council wouldn't accept this defeat easily. They would regroup, debate, and decide how to respond. Some would want peace. Others would want revenge. Earth had shown its teeth. Now they would see if the Council was wise enough to back down, or arrogant enough to keep pushing. General Taewon entered her office. The fleet is standing by. All defenses remain active. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so loud. 47 species, representatives from across known space, all shouting at once. The carefully maintained appearance of unity had shattered like glass. Ambassador Vreth stood at his podium, trying to restore order. His humiliation in Earth's solar system had cost him respect, but he still held his position. Barely. We must respond with force, roared Commander Kresh of the Morthek. His reptilian features were twisted with rage. Earth has humiliated us. They attacked our fleet without provocation. This cannot stand. They did not attack, countered Counselor Vex of the Velcros. His insectoid body clicked and hummed as he spoke. They disabled our ships and escorted us out. No one died. No ships were destroyed. They showed restraint. Restraint? Kresh slammed his clawed hand on the console. They showed superiority. They made us look like fools. The entire galaxy is watching. If we don't respond, every primitive world will think they can defy us. Vex had suspected Earth was more advanced than they appeared. He had argued against the invasion from the start. Now he was being proven right, but there was no satisfaction in it. The Council was tearing itself apart. Perhaps we should negotiate, suggested Ambassador Thel of the Thrain. His aquatic species valued philosophy and peaceful solutions. Earth has clearly stated their position. They want to be left alone. Why not respect that? Because we are the Galactic Council, Kresh shouted. We don't bow to primitives. They're not primitive, Vex said quietly. That's what we failed to understand. They're more advanced than us, possibly more advanced than any civilization in known space. They've been hiding it for 2 centuries. The chamber fell silent at that. The implications were terrifying. If Earth had been watching them for 200 years, what else did they know? What other secrets had they discovered? Vreth finally regained control of the meeting. The question before us is simple. Do we accept Earth's independence, or do we enforce Council law and bring them into compliance? The vote was called. It was close, but the warmongers won. 25 species voted for military action. 20 species voted for negotiation. 2 abstained. The Morthek would lead the attack. They would assemble the largest fleet in Council history, crush Earth's defenses, and bring humanity to heel. It would be a lesson to every species in the galaxy that the Council's authority was absolute. Vex watched the vote with growing dread. They were making a terrible mistake. But he was only one voice among many, and his warnings had been ignored. On Earth, intelligence reports brought news of the Council's decision within hours. Ambassador Jiwan's network had infiltrated deep enough to access their most secure communications. President Suna read the assessment with a heavy heart. 2,000 ships, she said to her assembled commanders. The largest military force they've ever deployed. General Taewon studied the tactical projections. They'll take at least 2 weeks to assemble that fleet. We have time to prepare. What are our options? Suna asked. Admiral Kyung stepped forward. We can deploy our full defensive network. The quantum fold gates we've built can transport our fleet instantly to any point in the solar system. We can position our automated defense drones throughout the asteroid belt. We'll have every advantage. But they'll still come in force, Taewon added. This won't be like the skirmish we just had. They'll be prepared for our technology. They'll have planned countermeasures. Suna looked at Dr. Junho, the quantum physicist who had developed many of Earth's most advanced systems. What about the weapons we've held in reserve? The ones we've never tested in combat? Juno shifted uncomfortably. The quantum displacement cannons are functional. They can move enemy ships light years away instantly. It would scatter their fleet across the galaxy without destroying them. But Madam President, using them would reveal our most advanced technology. Once the Council knows we can manipulate space-time like that, they'll understand just how far ahead of them we are. It might make negotiations impossible, or it might make them essential, Suna replied. She turned to Captain Minho, who had been invited to the strategy session after his squadron's success.
Captain, your assessment?
Minho stood at attention. We can win, Madam President. The Ghost Wolves are ready. The entire defense force is ready, but this will be different from last time. They'll be angry, scared, and desperate. That makes them dangerous. We'll need to hit them hard and fast. Show them that resistance is hopeless. Otherwise, we'll be fighting a long war. Suna nodded slowly. Then we prepare for total victory. Not destruction, but absolute superiority. We show them that fighting Earth is not just difficult, it's impossible. Admiral Kyung, activate the full defense network. General Taewon, recall all forces. Dr. Junho, prepare the quantum weapons, and someone get me a direct line to Counselor Vex. If anyone on the Council will listen to reason, it's him. Over the next 2 weeks, Earth transformed. The hidden defenses that had been scattered across the solar system consolidated into an impenetrable network. 500,000 automated drones, each equipped with weapons that could disable a Council cruiser, took up positions throughout the asteroid belt. The Ghost Fleet expanded to 300 ships as reserve vessels were brought online. The quantum fold gates, invisible to all sensors, were positioned at strategic points, ready to transport human forces anywhere instantly. And in secret facilities across Earth's moon, the quantum displacement cannons powered up for the first time outside of testing. They were massive installations, capable of reaching across thousands of light years to move objects through space. They had been Earth's final weapon, the insurance policy against an enemy they couldn't defeat conventionally. Earth was about to prove they didn't need them, but having them ready sent a message. Captain Minho spent those 2 weeks training his squadron. The Ghost Wolves had performed perfectly in their first real combat, but the next battle would be much harder. 2,000 enemy ships meant chaos, confusion, and split-second decisions. Remember, he told his pilots during their final briefing, we're not trying to kill anyone. We're trying to break their will to fight, disable their weapons, scatter their formation, make them understand that every minute they stay in our system, they become more vulnerable. We want them to retreat, not die. Lieutenant Soyan, his second-in-command, raised a concern. What if they don't retreat? What if they're willing to die rather than surrender? Then we grant them that wish, Minho said grimly. But we give them every chance to choose life first. The Council fleet assembled at a staging point 3 light years from Earth. 2,000 warships, representing 30 different species, all united in their purpose. Destroy Earth's defenses, occupy their world, bring them into the Council by force. Commander Kresh stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Warbringer, and addressed the fleet. Today we remind the galaxy why the Council has maintained peace for thousands of years. Because we are strong. Because we are united. Because we do not tolerate defiance. Earth thought they could embarrass us. They thought their primitive tricks would be enough. They were wrong. Today we show them the true power of civilization. The fleet cheered. They were confident, ready, and completely unprepared for what was about to happen. When the Council fleet entered Earth's solar system, they did so in perfect formation. Battle groups spread across millions of kilometers, covering every angle of approach. They had learned from their first encounter. They wouldn't be caught by surprise again. They were wrong. The battle began not with human ships appearing, but with Council ships disappearing. One moment, the vanguard of the fleet was advancing toward Mars. The next moment, 50 Council warships simply vanished. No explosion, no warning. They were just gone. On the Warbringer's bridge, chaos erupted. Where did they go? What happened? The answer came from their long-range sensors. The 50 missing ships had reappeared 3 light years away, scattered across empty space. They were unharmed but completely out of the battle. Dr. Junho watched from Earth's command center as his quantum displacement cannons fired again. Another wave of Council ships vanished, transported far away from the battle. It's working perfectly, he reported. We can remove their entire fleet without firing a single destructive shot. But President Suna shook her head. No, we need them to see our conventional forces too. We need them to understand this isn't just one weapon they might counter. This is total technological superiority. Admiral Kyung launched the fleet. The Ghost Fleet emerged from quantum stealth all at once. 300 warships materialized in the heart of the Council formation. Before the enemy could react, Earth's automated drones swarmed forward, 500,000 of them moving in perfect coordination. Captain Minho led the Ghost Wolves into the chaos. His fighter squadron split into smaller teams, each targeting a different section of the enemy fleet. They used their phase-shifting technology to appear inside the Council formations, firing precision shots that disabled engines and weapons without destroying the ships themselves. The battle that the Council expected to last days was over in 37 minutes. Admiral Kyung's flagship, the EDF Persistence, disabled 47 Council dreadnoughts single-handedly using cascading electromagnetic pulse bursts. The pulses jumped from ship to ship, shorting out their systems in waves. The negotiations began on neutral ground. Earth's lunar station, visible to the world below, became the site of the most important diplomatic meeting in galactic history. For the first time in 200 years, human representatives would speak directly with the Galactic Council. Dr. Hana led Earth's diplomatic team. She had spent 15 years studying Council languages, cultures, and psychology. Now she would put that knowledge to use. Beside her sat Captain Soyan, representing Earth's military, and Ambassador Jiwon, finally revealed after years of secret work in Council space. Across the table sat Councillor Vex, along with representatives from 12 Council species. Notably absent were the Morthek. Commander Kresh had been removed from his position in disgrace, and his species had withdrawn from Council leadership in shame. Let us begin with honesty, Vex said. His insectoid features unreadable, but his voice sincere. Earth has proven itself more advanced than we imagined, more powerful than we prepared for. We came to your system expecting to find primitives. Instead, we found our superiors. This changes everything. Hana nodded respectfully. We appreciate your honesty, Counselor, but let me be equally direct. Earth does not want to be your superior. We do not want to rule the galaxy or dominate other species. We only want what we have always wanted, to be left alone, to grow at our own pace, to protect our independence. Then why hide for so long? Asked one of the other counselors, a Thrain named Melkor. Why not simply tell us your capabilities? G1 leaned forward. Because we studied you. For 200 years we watched what the Council did to species that joined. You call it uplift. You call it guidance. But we saw something different. We saw cultures erased. We saw independence stolen. We saw proud civilizations turned into copies of their council masters. The council representatives shifted uncomfortably. They knew it was true. Not all species suffered, Vex said quietly. Some benefited from council membership. Some, Hana agreed. But many did not. And those who refused to join faced economic warfare, isolation, and in some cases, convenient accidents. We have evidence of 8 species that were destroyed through council manipulation when they rejected membership. She activated a holographic display, showing documents that G1 had collected over the years. The council representatives could not deny the evidence. It was all there in their own records, so we chose silence, Hana continued. We chose to develop our technology in secret. We chose to become so powerful that you could not force us into anything. And we chose to protect other species from suffering the same fate. What other species? Melkor asked. G1 smiled. There are 30 civilizations in this galaxy that the Council has never detected. Young species just beginning to explore space. We found them before you did. We shielded them with our technology. We gave them time to develop on their own terms, without Council interference. The revelation stunned the Council representatives. 30 species hidden from their sensors, protected by Earth. It meant that humanity's intelligence network was even more extensive than they had feared. President, Suna's voice came through the communication channel from Earth. Our terms are simple. Complete sovereignty for Earth and all human territories. No Council interference. No observation. No contact unless we initiate it. In exchange, we will share some of our defensive technology to help protect Council space from external threats. And the 30 hidden species? Vex asked. They remain hidden until they are ready to reveal themselves. If they choose to join the Council later, that will be their decision. But they will have a choice. Real choice. Not coercion disguised as guidance. The Council representatives conferred privately for several minutes. When they returned, Vex spoke for all of them. We need time to bring this proposal to the full Council, but I believe we can reach an agreement. However, I must warn you, not all Council members will accept this easily. The Morthek in particular will see this as surrender. There may be resistance. Then let them resist, Captain Soyan said firmly. Earth has shown what happens when someone attacks us. We would prefer peace, but we are prepared for war. The choice is theirs. As if to emphasize her point, something extraordinary happened. Dr. Junho activated the Horizon Protocol from Earth. It was a demonstration, carefully planned to make a point. A quantum field expanded around Earth's entire solar system. To the Council representatives watching from the lunar station, it looked like the sun itself was being wrapped in a shimmering curtain of light. Then slowly, Earth and everything around it began to fade from sensors. What is this? Vex demanded, a note of panic in his voice. This is what happens if you force us to defend ourselves permanently, Hana explained calmly. We call it the Horizon Protocol, a quantum field that makes our entire solar system unreachable by any technology the Council possesses. From your perspective, Earth would simply cease to exist. You couldn't see us, couldn't reach us, couldn't even send messages to us. We would be completely isolated. For how long? As long as we choose. Years, decades, centuries. We have the resources to sustain ourselves indefinitely. The demonstration lasted only 30 seconds before Junho deactivated the field. Earth reappeared on sensors, solid and real once again. But the message was clear. If the Council refused to negotiate fairly, Earth could simply vanish, taking all their advanced technology with them. The Council representatives returned to their homeworlds to present Earth's demands. What followed was 6 months of chaos in Council space. The Morthek, furious at their defeat and unwilling to accept Earth's terms, attempted one final attack. They assembled a smaller fleet, only 300 ships, and launched a surprise assault on Earth's outer defenses. It was a catastrophic mistake. Captain Minho's squadron intercepted them before they even reached the asteroid belt. This time, Earth was not interested in demonstrations or mercy. The Mortek had been warned. They had been given a chance at peace. They chose war. The Ghost Wolves, supported by Admiral Kyung's fleet, dismantled the Mortek attack in less than 20 minutes. But this time, Earth did not disable the ships. They transported them using the quantum displacement cannons, but not to empty space nearby. They moved the entire Mortek fleet to a location 3,000 light-years away, in a region of space with no habitable worlds, no resources, and no easy way home. It would take the Mortek years to return to Council space. By the time they did, the galaxy would have moved on without them. General Taewan watched the operation from Earth's command center. "That should be the last military action we need to take," he said to President Suna. "I hope so," she replied. "But keep the Ghost Fleet ready, just in case." In Council space, the Morthek's defeat finally convinced the last holdouts that Earth could not be conquered. Species began leaving the Council in growing numbers, demanding the same reforms that Earth had insisted upon. The old system was collapsing, and something new needed to take its place. Councillor Vex, now effectively the Council's leader, proposed a radical restructuring. The Council would become a voluntary alliance rather than a governing body. Species could join or leave as they chose. Technology sharing would be optional, not mandatory. Cultural preservation would be protected by law. And most importantly, the practice of uplifting primitive species would be banned entirely. It took months of debate, but eventually, the reforms passed. The new council was born, and its first official act was to sign the Sol Accords with Earth. The treaty guaranteed complete sovereignty for humanity and established the principles that would govern future contact between Earth and other civilizations. Commander Daiho attended the signing ceremony on the lunar station. He stood beside Admiral Kyung, General Taewan, and the other military leaders who had made Earth's victory possible. They watched as President Suna signed the historic document, officially ending 200 years of silence. "It's strange," Kyung said quietly. "We spent our entire lives preparing for war. Now that it's over, what do? "We make sure it stays over," Taewan replied. "We keep the defenses ready. We maintain our strength. We never forget that peace only lasts when you're strong enough to defend it." Daiho nodded in agreement. The Ghost Fleet would remain active, hidden, ready. Earth's defensive network would stay online. The quantum weapons would be maintained, not because Earth wanted war, but because the only way to guarantee peace was to make war impossible for your enemies. Dr. Hana, her diplomatic work complete, returned to Earth to begin a new project, the first multi-species university, where students from across the galaxy could learn without being forced to abandon their own cultures. It was called the Horizon Institute, named after the protocol that had demonstrated Earth's ability to protect itself. The first class included humans, Velcros, Thrain, and students from 3 of the 30 species Earth had been protecting. They came to learn from each other, not to be uplifted or civilized, but to share knowledge as equals. Captain Minho, his combat duties mostly finished, became an instructor at Earth's military academy. He taught the next generation of pilots the lessons he had learned. "Technology alone doesn't win wars," he would tell them. "Wisdom wins wars, knowing when to fight and when to wait, when to show mercy and when to strike hard. Earth stayed silent for 200 years, and that patience saved us. Never forget that."